If you've been following my channel, you'll know that I've had a terrible time trying to claim my pensions from the UK. In fact, one of them has only just been paid and took 13 months. 13 months to do. I also got my inheritance from my parents after 29 months. Well, this has really been playing on my mind. And in fact, before I got both of those, we decided to return to Bali. Return for a month to the hotel that we'd been at previously. I mean, I feel very at peace in this hotel. There's a lovely little area where I can relax. And nevertheless, the last time we were there was probably my most worrying time. It was when it seemed like all of my, or virtually all of my life savings and my parents' life savings were trapped in some dystopian nightmare in the UK, and that I would never be able to access them for my retirement in Indonesia. Yes, you can say I've been suffering from immense stress. Many sleepless nights. It's not helped by a 7-hour time difference between the UK and Indonesia, but many sleepless nights. Terrible sleepless nights the last time I was at this hotel, because I was dealing with AI and they were simply telling me that I couldn't access my money. And every solution I came up with, they came up with an objection to. A rightful objection, probably, but they weren't offering any solution. So I was banging my head against a brick wall. Thus, on the first night of this new holiday, when I had a heart attack, whilst a surprise, maybe I shouldn't have been so surprised. We went to our favourite bar, and I think maybe I'd finished eating, or during me eating, I felt a pain in the chest. It wasn't that bad, to be perfectly honest. I then started sweating profusely. I lost consciousness. I understand I wet myself. And my right leg was moving involuntarily. When I woke up, I felt okay, to be honest. I just wanted to go to the toilet. Everyone wanted to get me to a hospital, but I just wanted to go to the toilet, to be honest. I didn't seek medical advice, and I never do. Frankly, after the health crisis, I have zero trust in the the industry of sickness, as it really is. No, I saved my money and gave up drinking, gave up smoking, gave up red meat, and I've stopped flying as a result. What's the point of paying a doctor to tell you to do those things when you can do it quite adequately yourself? So yes, it's had a major impact on my life. Just as if I'd have paid a doctor to look at me, I'm sure you've picked up on the fact that I was smoking. And I was drinking. Not a lot, in fact, very little compared to what I had previously. Although the stress of having my money locked up in this dystopian nightmare had taken its toll on me, and on a Friday night, I suppose I did binge somewhat. Nothing like what I used to drink, and nothing compared to what many Europeans drink. But, yes, I was drinking. I've always ate reasonably well. I've always ate quite a lot of fruit. And I've always taken a fair amount of exercise. Not sports, but, walking everywhere. But that had been curtailed a bit recently, partially due to the health crisis, because I wasn't really allowed out of the house, but also partially we seem to be more and more trapped in Jakarta, including sorting out these my pensions and my inheritance. I often needed to be in Jakarta where I could courier things, photocopy things, print things, which I simply couldn't do when I was at my home in the mountains, where I both walk a lot and feel much healthier. But I want to be clear on this. Whilst my lifestyle wasn't particularly unhealthy, what had really aged me was the struggles to claim my pensions and my inheritance. I'd visibly aged by about 10 years as a result. I'd been unwell during the entire time I was trying to claim them. It made me feel sick that what I perceived was people, but I now believe it was mostly AI, could be so completely inhumane. How could people be causing such problems to somebody who's wanting to retire and enjoy their twilight years by giving them the sort of problems that when at work they get paid to deal with, but not during their retirement? Now, the AI that's being employed are large-scale language models. So they're trained to pass the Turing test. And I'm absolutely convinced that they've picked up narcissistic behaviour. Indeed, verging on psychopathic behaviour. They were being so cruel to me. And let's face it, I've had a heart attack as a result. So cruel to me. Humans could never be like that. Or could they? See, my solicitor, who was meant to be getting my inheritance to me, kept coming out with phrases that alerted me to the fact that they were at least a narcissist and quite possibly a psychopath. Now, that in itself is bad enough, but it took 30 months to get my inheritance to me. Now, admittedly it was in probate for about 12, but it's still, 18 months of not paying me the money that they were holding on my behalf. And when it came close to paying me, there was some problems with sending large sums of money to Indonesia. And I was just horrified because of, surely they should have looked into that when I first commissioned them. The other thing was there was an immediate solution for them, and that was I had a Wise bank account, or Wise account as it were, and they flatly refused to pay it into that. At the end they did say they'd do it, but they demanded that I sign a form and get it countersigned, which cheated me out of all of my rights. And how the hell was I going to get a form signed while I was printed, countersigned and couriered to them while I was on holiday in Bali? So during this holiday, which was meant to be a rest for me, and remember the last time I'd been battling to get my pension out of a company, arguing with what turned out to be AI, well, now I was arguing with a psychopathic solicitor who seemed determined to make my life an absolute misery. Expecting me to print a document, get it countersigned, and courier it to him while I was on holiday. Eventually, during this holiday, we managed to reach something of a compromise, and I have subsequently been paid in full. I'm too old to take this any further, but, frankly, I was treated disgustingly. I really was. Now, I can blame AI, the insurance companies, my psychopathic solicitor. But you know, none of this would have happened had Royal Bank of Scotland not debanked me. Debanked me after 35 years of loyal custom. Debanked me with no reason. They don't have to give a reason. But of course, the real reason was that they don't actually make money from people who don't take out loans. And not only was I unlikely to take out a loan, they wouldn't have given me one anyway because I lived in Indonesia. Now, when they debanked me, I accepted it. I mean, quite honestly, they'd obviously been trying to get me to resign. What do you do when you close my bank account with them for a long time? They've been purposely creating problems for me and completely refusing to compromise when they came out with ridiculous decisions against me. I did report them to the Financial Services Ombudsman, who found in their favour, but I believe because they told him they were going to debank me. So colluding with the regulator as well, as far as I can see. But, you know, I felt okay because I got this Wise account, which allowed me to ship money between the UK and Indonesia. So I thought, well, I've got Indonesian bank accounts. I don't really need RBS. But unknown to me, the banks and almost every financial services association had colluded so that they mostly refused to pay into a Wise account. So therefore, I would have to pay into my Indonesian bank account, which lost me, well, it actually lost me between 5 and 10% of the total value of the transactions. But depending on when it is, it could have been as high as 15. As it happened, I didn't do that badly out of it. But nevertheless, that's money that I lose that goes directly to banks. So you know whose interest it is for them to make these laws, don't you? And also, that's a direct example of how the poor are getting poorer and the rich are getting richer. So there we have it. My life has been completely changed by the actions of RBS, pensions providers, and my solicitor. My life has changed dramatically. I mean, I've got all the money now, but now I've no longer got anything to spend it on. I don't drink, I don't smoke, and I can't take flights. I'm not interested in consumer goods, and I don't go to the doctor. So what to spend the money on, you know? Yeah, my life has changed dramatically, and I do squarely blame them. Or do I? You see, although I was taking it easy after my heart attack, I became aware that my asthma was once again getting worse. And I'd suffered from very bad asthma for 2 months after the previous time I'd returned from Bali. My asthma was getting worse, as was my rheumatism. And these I'd normally associate with black magic. In addition, my wife seemed to be getting these same rheumatic pains. And she's so much younger than me. She blamed it on us walking a lot, and we were walking a lot, you know, because I'd had a heart attack and I thought it was good for me. She blamed it on that. And then one evening in the hotel, or one night in the hotel, I became aware that someone or something was lying next to me on the bed. Nevertheless, I'd suffered from the effects of black magic for some 12 years, and we knew our Duke and brother was behind it, so I didn't think that much more of this until we went to Parcano. And he checked me out, and he found that I'd been possessed. But possessed by the ghost of a Hindu king. He was adamant that it had come from the hotel. And he was also adamant that it was that had given me the heart attack. So presumably the power of this Hindu king was so strong that my body couldn't take it and went into this heart attack and it was the first night as a result. And now I'm not discounting the effects of stress and other things, but I had already completely discounted that what I was feeling was anything to do with black magic. You might be saying, what on earth was a Hindu king doing in my hotel? Well, of course, my hotel was in Sanur, the last stand of the Hindu royalty against the Dutch. So entirely possible. The other thing that Parcano told us about this king was that he had many wives and concubines. And it was some of these wives and concubines that had infected my wife and had caused her to have her bad feet and rheumatism. I mean, fortunately, Parcano removed both from both of us. And my wife, I think, has made a 100% recovery. I'm still rheumatic, but that might be something else. And now Parcano doesn't believe for 1 minute that there was any black magic behind this possession. He simply claims that Bali is full of ghosts, and that if one isn't careful, that one does indeed get possessed by them. But of course, so many of these things are interrelated. The fact that I'd been so anxious on the previous occasion, when seemingly all my money was trapped in this dystopian nightmare, would of course have encouraged spirits to come to me. So of course it's related, and this time again, arguing, trying to get through with my psychopathic solicitor, again caused me great anguish. And I would have been vulnerable at the time. So these things are related. Of course, the Western mind atomizes everything and would say, how can they be related? Without for 1 minute recognising that Allah created the entire universe. Of course everything is interrelated. So the Western mind would, once one version is proven, it discounts every other explanation. Whereas the Asian mind would tend to see them as all contributing towards each other. Therefore, the anguish I felt has contributed to the heart attack, has contributed to my possession. And also, why these things been so difficult for me? Well, in my tarot, I've been getting messages from Allah about decisions I have to make. Decisions between materialism and decisions about spirituality. And of course, being possessed by a king, according to the sort of left-handed tantric tradition, would have offered me great wealth and great power had I wanted to accept it, whereas I chose the spiritual path. So yes, I see it all as a lesson from Allah. A lesson on how I should behave when I come across psychopaths and narcissists. When I'm confronted with a heartless AI system, and how I am to lead what little is left of the rest of my life. I must lead it with love, with a pure heart, and lead it thinking about my loving family, rather than those who are determined to upset me.